I'll just sell my house and finance the whole thing. He was like making these jokes along the way. 3 years later, and Francis like was out of options. So he called James and he was like, "You've been joking about the sell your house thing. What would that actually look like?" Within a week, James's house was on the market.
The film industry is changing fast, and if you want to make movies, it's time to become your own gatekeeper. If you've got a vision and the drive to make it happen, this podcast is for you.
We're your hosts, Ken Kabatoff and Anthony Yap, and every week we dive into the hustle, challenges, and strategies of independent filmmaking. We talk to directors, producers, and industry pros about what it really takes to get your film made on your own terms.
Let's dive in. Welcome back to Off the Lot. This week, Anthony is stuck on set, so I'll be flying solo, but I'm very excited about today's episode because we have two very special guests, directors Eric Foss and Brandon Pickering, who recently directed the absolutely amazing documentary titled Sell Your House. Now, this movie starts off as a behind-the-scenes documentary chronicling the making of an indie film that I loved, which was also one of the most celebrated indie films of 2024. It's called The Last Stop in Yuma County, and it's directed by Francis Galuppi and produced by James Claeys. But this documentary is so much more than just a behind-the-scenes film. This is a story about a film producer who believed in his friend and their film so much, he sold his own house to fund it. And Eric and Brandon filmed the entire journey. Sell Your House is about friendship and how far you'll go to pursue your dreams, even if it costs you your closest relationships and your very own house. The movie recently played at the Santa Barbara Film Festival, which is how I heard about it, and I was fortunate enough to see this in advance. And honestly, put this movie on your radar. This is a must-watch for every indie filmmaker out there. I simply can't recommend it enough. Eric and Brandon, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to dive in.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Really appreciate it.
We're excited to go diving with you too.
All right. Well, look, so first I'd love to just get some context about how all of this started. How did you two get involved in starting this documentary in the first place?
That started with me. This is Eric. I was friends with Francis for like 4 or 5 years before he brought up the idea of doing a documentary, but I was basically just hanging out with him one night. We had a few too many beers, and he was like, "What are you gonna do on Last Stop?" This is actually like right after James sold his house, and he was like on a high, like, "We're gonna finally make my movie," because they'd been in development hell for a while. And I was like, "I'm not like, what, I could come help you grip, I guess, but like you probably can hire way better people than me." And he was like, "No, man, I need you to be out there." I just finished a short documentary, my first one, and he was like, "Well, I liked The Bear You," which is the name of that movie. "Why don't you come shoot like a little featurette for us? Because I love that kind of thing for movies." I immediately refused, but the idea kind of stuck in my head, and Francis is an extremely convincing person. So over the next week or so, I was eventually convinced, realized it was like that kind of story being handed to you on a platter is not going to happen every day. So,
well, it's such a strong hook. I mean, how often does that happen, right? You got to see how that plays out.
And I kind of like mentioned it to a few people here and there, and they're like, "And you're not going to do it?" So eventually I was convinced, and for better or worse, but we're through the other side of the tunnel now, and we barely survived, but survived. Yeah,
and then Brandon, you came on board at one point, basically just in pre-production as you guys were getting going.
Yeah, so I'd been working with Foss for years. We work on weird reality TV shows together, and so we'd been doing that for a while. And strangely enough, I had James Claeys, the producer of the film Last Stop in Yuma County, who sold his house. He has a T-shirt brand, which is how he became quite successful. And I was a big fan of that T-shirt brand. It's like a horror movie brand. It's called The Local Boogeyman. I've had followed them for years. I bought a bunch of shirts, whatever. And one day on Instagram, I saw he posted a picture with Foss that was like crazy, like BTS coming for our new thing. And I was like, what? And I immediately hit up Foss and I was like, what is going on? And he was like, oh yeah, I'm shooting this thing. You want to help? And I was like, sure. And so this was when he was shooting on set, the actual production of Last Stop. Um, for whatever reason, I wasn't able to go out and shoot on set with him. So a few months went by. I had already died in Louisiana at that point. No, I think that they
Hold on,
weren't
I need
allowing any extra.
some context there. Well, you died in Louisiana?
No, not quite. There's a show that we do called Naked and Afraid, and it was a
Every
particularly
time
hard.
we go and work on that show, we die a
We
little bit
die a
more.
little bit, right? So anyway,
But also, just to add a little bit more, we're gonna do a tangent real quick. The Louisiana season of Naked and Afraid XL has gone down in infamy as one of the hardest ones that they've done. That just like kicked the shit out of the crew, and people came back, and I was like, "Oh my god, what happened to you?" And they're like, "Louisiana." Like it was just
It's like
the
going to
worst
war.
fucking thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was a little twitchy for a little while after that one. Anyway, the twitches were all gone at this point. This was 2023, middle of 2023, sort of close to the end. I wasn't able to go shoot Last Stop with Foss, but after it was done, he threw like a party at his house in Joshua Tree, and I showed up and I was like, "How was it? Tell me everything." And he was like, "Well, I could tell you, or you could just help me make the thing." Like at that point, it was supposed to be like maybe a 20-minute featurette. And he was
Yeah.
like, "You want to help me like edit it and start throwing it together?" And I was like, "Sure." And then 3.5 years later, we made a movie out of it. And my role kind of evolved from just helping editing to co-directing with Foss, and then I was shooting some stuff, and yeah, we've just
Yeah.
been at it since.
Well, okay, so then that's really interesting. So at what point then did it go from this like 20-minute featurette that's like the behind the scenes special features that we all like grew up watching and loving to like, hey, wait, this should be its own standalone feature documentary? And was that during production? Did you realize while you were shooting it, you're like, wait, I think we have something way more here?
The first introduction to that idea was on set while I was shooting. And do you know who Richard Brake is? The like lead villain in Last Stop.
Yeah, right, of course. From Barbarian as well, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
he's in every movie you've ever seen in your life, and
Yeah.
suddenly it's like you realize who he is, and now this door is unlocked, and you're like, oh, he's like,
He lives in your nightmares now.
right.
Yeah, totally.
So, anyways, Richard sat next to me at lunch one day while they were making Last Stop about halfway through production and was like, long story short, was like, you should make this into a feature. Like, this is not a featurette. This is a feature film. And I was like, I was very anxious to hear him say that because I knew the amount of work that would go into a feature. And I just didn't want to monopolize my life with a documentary at the time. And I just had like so many different things that I was working on at the time. I had just bought a house. So I was like scared of not being able to pay for that. And like,
Yeah.
I had just uprooted my life from LA to Joshua Tree, and like a lot of things were kind of like balls in the air. That was the first introduction to that idea. And then as we kept going, it just like at the end of the day, the story wasn't done being told. The story was sell your house, and you don't have the end of that story until you find out whether or not James got his house back. It just didn't feel done, like you just keep going. And Brandon has a funny joke about how documentaries never end until
until
dies.
everyone dies.
Yeah,
and
right.
then finally the movie's done. But then maybe not, because how many retrospective documentaries are there about dead people? So who knows? Maybe we're still making the movie and we just don't realize it.
So there may be, maybe not a sequel, or even just a follow-up featurette or something at some point. But I that's so true. Like I just wanted to know what happened. Like we won't go there. But yeah, this hook is so strong, and I mean, look, James selling his house is such a huge act. What can you tell us about like even leading up to that? Like, did Francis convince him to do it? It didn't really sound like that. James just believed in the movie so much and wanted to put something on the line and like produce movies and continue to produce movies. I think that's also one thing like that I'm going through right now is yeah, we wanted to make one movie, but it's actually we want to continue to make movies. And if we can just kind of break even or make a little bit more on this one, we'll put that into the next one and so on and so forth. And that seemed to be the plan for James.
Yeah, and we can talk about like how misdirected that is or isn't, like his sort of like plan is like, was it a good plan or was it not? I definitely have some thoughts on that, but the way that that all manifested was they were working with a production company for a couple years to help it get made.
Oh, they developed Last Stop with this company.
No, they well, like developed the like in pre-production. Francis wrote it by himself, and then he brought the script to like indie Hollywood, and then this company came on.
Okay.
And so they were like, "Great, we're buying the script from you." I think they gave them like, I don't know, like I don't remember how much, but it wasn't that much. And then James came on very early. He was one of the first people to read the script. He was like, "This is fucking awesome. I want to make this thing with you." And then they brought on a few other producers and this production company as well. And that production company started to hunt for talent. And it was like every other month, it was like a new celebrity was attached. It was like Bruce Willis, and then Bruce Willis had dementia, and then Nick Cage, and then Nick Cage got pissed off at an agent, and then Vince Vaughn.
Vince
I
Vaughn
don't
was
know
there
what
for a little
happened
bit, yeah.
that. But then basically, like the idea is that, and you probably know this already, but the idea is that if you attach A-list talent, they bring in a certain like dollar amount, like and that's like measured as value of like these celebrities.
It's essentially marketing for your movie, right? Like
it is, and like dealing with if this company was talking to a sales agent, I mean, there's just a very specific number, and sometimes it's pretty surprising. Of like, who gets the most money is like Josh Hartnett, and you're like, Josh Hartnett, what? And they're like, no, but he sells in Europe. Like
interesting.
We know that if we pay X amount of dollars for this talent, we know that we can sell the movie for, Y amount of dollars. And it's a weird math, but yeah.
Yeah. And the model of this company they were working with was that they would put $5 million into a movie, get an A-list celebrity, use them for like 2 days.
Yeah.
But they're like one of the main people in the movie. You just shoot them all out in 2 days. They get like $2 million or something. And then, which is half your budget. And then you make the rest of your movie.
And they've been in, 2 scenes of the movie, and then they're on the poster.
They're in the scenes that are going to be in the trailer.
Exactly.
The biggest face on the poster. Yeah.
Completely.
100%. So that's the process they were going through. And all these celebrities kept falling through. And then COVID happened. And eventually they were just like, you know what? We need to get this script back. So the whatever licensing deal they had for the script expired. They bought it back from that company. And so they had control of the script. This entire process, James is like, man, fuck these guys. Like, I'll just sell my house and finance the whole thing. He was like making these jokes along the way. And Francis was always like shaking his head like, dude, we're not doing that, because that would be like what he says in interviews, like that'd be so much pressure. But then they got the script back. And it was like 2 years later, almost 3 years later, and Francis like was out of options. So he called James and he was like, you've been joking about the sell your house thing. What would that actually look like? And they started a conversation, and within a week, James's house was on the market. And he sold it.
I think he says that like the next day he called up his like realtor and was like, "Yeah, what are we doing?" So
it was like a crazy time it was a seller's market, so that house sold like super quick and for a pretty high dollar amount. And then the rest is That's where we jump in and sell your house.
Yeah, like I just can't believe, or I can't. Oh, I'd hate to be in that situation. Like one of my best friends put all this money in. I remember meeting with an investor last year, and they were just like, "Look, like I think we were only talking to them about like $250,000 or something, and they're like, "Look, this is not the last $250,000 that we have that we're hoping this movie makes money. Like they make $250 million a year at this company. 250,000, it's a drop in the bucket." And I was like, yeah, we need more guys like this. We need to find more people like this. And it just kind of felt like, oh my God, you're putting $1 million in, and you do need this thing to make money. I mean, it's good drama, but it's just so risky. It's unbelievable. But I
It's
could see
also
where James is
like
coming from.
it's high risk, high reward. So like you he put in everything he had. Also, I think it's important to acknowledge that James has and had a very successful company that like sometimes pulls in like tens of thousands of dollars in a weekend.
Yeah.
So he had a safety net. He wasn't gonna, and like obviously we kind of like boost the drama a little bit with it, but he wasn't gonna own a home, but he wasn't gonna be living on the street.
No, no,
Um,
for sure.
and like the main stakes for him is, do I get to make another movie after this? Because if you're putting like your entire life savings into something, you expect that you get to do it again, right? Like you're investing in a future in this career. And that's what he was doing. And that's like, to me, like, I think that's the conversation I've been having most with other filmmakers is like, if you're going to do the super high risk thing, then do it over multiple films because that's how long it takes you to actually make a profit, actually start to be like able to live off that career.
Yeah. Yeah, the movie number one it won't necessarily make that money back, but hopefully if you're lucky enough to get two or three of them in the can. um, well, I mean, just on that note too, like Last Stop is not a franchise. It's not really a traditional genre film. It's a crime thriller, basically. Um, Typically it's not like a horror film that maybe travels better around the world, et cetera, et cetera. And like I know everybody says horror sells really easily, and like to some extent I think that is true. I mean, I just made a horror film, but it's just Last Stop is not exactly the vehicle to be like, hey, we're going to make three of these types of movies. It's not a franchise. So do you know, were there any discussions about that specifically? Like, is this the best movie to actually move forward with to build a career? And I mean, looking back at it, we know that it worked out really well for Francis.
Yeah, totally. I
But
think the idea was the thing they wanted to repeat was making good movies.
yeah,
That was the idea. It was like as simple as that. And like they really believed in the script and they thought if we can keep telling stories that we believe in, we believe that there's an audience out there that, and I actually, I agree with them. Like making a good movie with like a brand attached, which is the local boogeyman and Francis Galuppi. We've seen, crazy examples of that would be like Tarantino is like a good, it's like
yeah,
he has a voice, but like his films are all very different stories from each other. They're just like in this same brand of like very violent kind of like dark comedy. But yeah, I mean, I think that was their approach is like, let's just make good movies together and find our audience.
But I actually think that on the flip side, a little bit, to make a movie like Last Stop and to get it made in the way that you want to get it made, somebody has to do something crazy like sell their house. Like, people aren't clamoring to make a, $1 million movie that is all in one location, is like a small, because like you're saying, it's all franchises and things that can be spiraled out into whatever,
yeah,
horror being a great example of that. But I think there's a reason that the best option to make Last Stop was James selling his house, and that's because of the state of filmmaking right now. you know.
Yeah, and if Last Stop was made with any other company, it wouldn't be Last Stop in Yuma County. It would turn into a much more cookie cutter type of crime thriller that they know that they can sell. And Nick Cage would make an appearance and,
Totally.
die in
And
the shootout, and they'd move on.
and their big thing was they wanted to make a movie that they had total control over, right?
Yeah.
They weren't going to be asked to recut anything, right? They were going to have the movie that they wanted, and they did, and everything was great. And then that's when, distribution comes along, and suddenly once you sign with a distributor, it's not your movie anymore. And that's kind of what the second half of our documentary goes into, where it's like, uh, you climb the mountain and you finish production and you made your movie and yay. And, normally it looks like that. And that's the end of the story. Everyone lived happily ever after. And actually, that is the start of the filmmaking process, is when you're in the business side of things. And how do you get people to see your movie?
Yeah.
What's confusing to me is like, why do I feel like there's more examples of a film like Last Stop that has like a total freedom to do exactly what the filmmakers want to do. There's more examples of that being successful than a film that makes a lot of money because the execs were following a formula that they think works. Am I wrong about that, or is that just what's like advertised?
No, I think originality and authenticity and just like and a voice goes so far. It just cuts through the noise. But we are seeing more and more of that. Like even on the studio side with something like Sinners or Weapons, and like, look, they're not small movies by any means, but there's a voice and a style that's very distinct, and it's not just like another, the seventh movie of this franchise. And so I think that goes a long way. And I think that Hollywood's starting to notice, but Hollywood doesn't want to make the 1 million, 2 million, even $5 million films because it just costs so much on the distribution side to actually make those movies successful in the system as it currently is, right? Like it costs so much money to put a movie into theaters, and we'll get into all the distribution side of things. But I think that's why, like, if we can make movies ourselves and control them and control that process, even if it's a slow rollout. And I also want to talk about like how you guys are rolling out your own documentary here. I think being in control is great, but it is just slower and the return isn't quite as high. But I think audiences still want that. Their people are seeking that
Also,
out.
a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
People don't like to do a lot of work.
Sure. Well, and to me, right, the big thing, I think, to the point of like, okay, if we're talking about self-distribution, right, you make a movie and now it's like, okay, well, we're going to do it ourselves. At the point that you finish a movie, you're so exhausted, right? Like,
yeah,
you and then a distributor comes along, and maybe they're a smaller distributor and they don't have too much to show for themselves, but you want to believe, okay, these guys are going to take care of me and they're going to take care of my movie, because you're exhausted and you need some kind of hope, and that's, I think, when you kind of can get screwed over really badly, because they'll promise you everything, and then you're like, please.
And then the next layer on top of that, it's like you're exhausted. So you're like, yes, please do it. And then if you're like, okay, so not only are you exhausted, but you're like, what do I want to do in my life? I want to be a filmmaker. And then you finish a movie and they're like, well, I know you want to be a filmmaker, but what if we tell you that you're going to spend the next year and a half of your life making Instagram videos? And you're like,
right.
Oh, that sounds like worse than not being a filmmaker.
Sure. And I mean, but that's kind of the self-distribution thing, right? Is like, you have to do it all yourself. You have to do all your own marketing. And so, yeah, you're going out and and you feel so annoying, incessantly talking at people about like, look, it's my movie. It's my movie. And you're just like, God, shut up.
It's so true about being exhausted. I mean, I couldn't imagine finishing my feature and then having to start that process. I mean, in terms of my movie, we ended up getting a Canadian distributor and a worldwide sales agent before we even went into production.
Whoa. That's amazing.
It was, I mean, I don't exactly know how it all happened. It was the fact that one of my executive producers, he's made a bunch of films, some lower budget. I think his biggest film was The Colony from like 2003, like 20 million or something with Lawrence Fishburne. But
Mm-hmm.
look, he's driven down this road a bunch of times, so he knows where the potholes are. And then my main producer, he's made a bunch of smaller indies at this same budget level. I think this is now the most expensive movie that he's made. And for context, we are just over 2 million Canadian. So it was about like 1.5 US.
Mm-hmm.
But we also got tax credits to help with that. Because in British Columbia, we have really great tax incentives. But all of that to say, yeah, we had a connection to, I can't say them publicly right now. I'm actually literally waiting for the press release to come out this week for the Cannes Film Festival. But
Whoa.
but we got yeah, we have a Canadian distributor and then a great sales agent. And so they were on board because of the script. And this is my first movie. I had no track record. Like, I don't know. I guess the script convinced them. And it all worked out. And they still let us just make the movie that we wanted to make. It was entirely privately funded. No soft money. Because in Canada, we have like Telefilm or Creative BC and these like funding organizations that can give you a bunch of soft money. But talk about feeling the pressure of like you just have somebody else's money and you have to deliver. And so, like I was telling you guys before, like looking in the or watching your movie felt like looking in the mirror because it was just like all of this pressure to make the best movie possible. We all want to make a good movie, but then also have the pressure of like I have to deliver something that's going to make my investors their money back, and that's such a tricky thing. So when it comes back to distribution, what happened with us was early in the process, we thought we were going to make like a much smaller film. Maybe around 500,000 US. And the plan was to self-distribute because it just seemed like so many filmmakers get screwed over by distributors out there. And we're like, look, let's look at this new wave of indie filmmakers that are trying to self-distribute and look at different means of like eventizing a movie and filling theaters and going on the road with a movie. But at a certain point, our movie just got too big. And then we just realized that we had to go back into the traditional distribution model. And so I totally commend people for trying to self-distribute, but it is really tough. And I think that if you do it, you just have to start that process like before pre-production. You kind of have to figure out like, where do we want this movie to go? And do a lot of that work while you still have energy.
Mm-hmm.
So that you wrap and you're like, okay, this is our plan. Like we already have the contacts in place and now we can move forward and make it happen.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe there's something also about the fact that what we just did is like this as a documentary, and in some ways, like we didn't really know where it was going to go or what it was going to be, right? And I think to what you're saying is like that is so smart to figure some things out before you even start. For us, we were like, "Is this even a movie? We don't know." And then suddenly it was like, "Oh, we need to get this thing out there." You know?
But in your defense, it started out as a short behind-the-scenes featurette, right? So
Sure.
and then it evolved.
What does your distribution deal look like, Ken? Is it like
So we have a specific distributor just for Canada, and basically their deal is, I mean, once they see the film, they're going to decide if it's good enough to pursue a theatrical run. Thankfully, they have a really great track record with theatrical, and they really believe in like physical copies as well. Like they're like, oh no, we're going to make
cool.
a Blu-ray of this, and I was like, yes, okay, awesome.
That's so cool.
And so that's promising, but again, like it kind of just depends on how the movie turns out. And then they would also negotiate the streaming deal with the Canadian streamer Crave, which is like our number one streamer up here. But Paramount and like Tubi are also making a play, but look, it's just going to come down to like they're not making a play for our movie, they're just making a play in Canada, so it'll just come down to like the price. And then we have a sales agent that's handling the rest of the world, including finding a great American distributor that can partner with us. So the plan right now is to take our picture-locked cut of the movie and show it to distributors at the Cannes Film Festival, because our sales agent really believes in the film. They love it so much. And they're like, even without the visual effects, this plays really strong. So we think we can try to attract some distributors right now and try to make a play. But it's still going to take a few months of negotiating and figuring that out. And I just don't know where that's going to land.
That's interesting. What my question always is how are you surviving as the filmmaker? Like, do you
Mhm.
have a job also that you're working on? Sorry, we're interviewing you now, Ken. So
Yeah.
welcome to our podcast. It's called uh, Just to the Side of the Lot. Um,
Yeah. I mean, look, it's yeah, talk about surviving. My day job leading up to this, like I was a TV writer for a while. I wrote and co-produced a show called Travelers on Netflix, and I have some TV shows in development. But that doesn't really pay the bills anymore, and so I would take day jobs of like working in production as a script coordinator, director's assistant, and basically save up enough to just be able to take time off and do these things that I love. And in order to even make this movie, um, I mean, there was a version of this movie where I would get a paycheck as a director. And that was the plan moving forward. It wasn't a huge paycheck. You know, again, the movie was really low budget. But at a certain point last summer, one of our key investors dropped out at the last minute. We raised $1 million. And when it came time to collect the money, one of our investors just basically ghosted us. They were like, no, we're going to go in a different direction. And they wouldn't answer the phone. And it was just like, oh my God, this movie's going to die. And so our other investors stayed on board. We had to figure out another way to make this movie. And we did. But what that also meant was I had to reinvest my fees into this film. And so I didn't actually get paid up front to make this film.
mm,
If the movie does well, I'll see some money on the back end for sure.
yeah.
But and again, like I'm just like James, I'm the guy that's like I'm always going to bet on myself, and I really believe that we're going to pull this off. But that was the sacrifice. So up front, yeah, I haven't gotten paid on this movie, so I've just been living off of savings and doing like day jobs here and there to just get by. But between December and the end of February, I mean, it was just the movie. I was on this movie 24/7. I didn't have time to do
Mhm.
anything other than the movie itself. And so now even with post-production, I'm one of the editors of the film just because we have such a rushed post-production schedule. I mean, right now we're looking at delivering the movie potentially mid-July. And so we have a ton of visual effects shots to get, sound design, color, score. It's all happening. And so it's full on. And so yeah, surviving is definitely like, top of mind. What
The next thing too is like, even when you're done with the movie, this me and Brandon ran into this recently. When you finish the movie, it's done, right? Like everything true lock, right? Everything's done. Then it doesn't stop. Now you have to like start figuring out like your festival run and your distribution plan and start marketing your movie or like building your audience or what social media or whatever that is, which is its own full-time job. But you can't do that because you got to go refill the bank account because you just like completely emptied it. And then after that, you have to wait even longer because then the distributor, like once the distributor gets it out to like Netflix or whatever it is, right? That money takes like months to come back around to you
If you get any money.
if you get any money because your investors are taking the first for you 1.5 million plus 20% probably.
Yeah.
So and so to pay all that back and then wait for the whole like whatever amount of time they hold on to profits until like the quarter's over or whatever. It's like then it's been like now it's been 2 or 3 years and you still don't have any money from it.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
mean,
so sorry. I'm being like really pessimistic, but I'm just like, I guess I'm asking the question of like, how do you get through that?
yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, you find a way. Everybody has their way and like jobs that they could fall back on or just ways to make money. And you can check out my OnlyFans account and but where we're sort of at right now is like because I reinvested my fee, which again I don't recommend you do to any filmmakers out there, like unless you really believe that you're going to see that money back, because like too many filmmakers have just been screwed over by producers who are like sort of predatory as well. Like you write a script and they're like, yeah, we'll pay you your 60 grand or or less or more, whatever it is. And but it'd really help us out if you could just reinvest that, because you'll
Mhm.
see way more in the back end, knowing that they're never going to see that.
There's no back end. What are you talking about?
For me, because I own the company that produced the movie, I am a producer on it. Like, again, we made this movie ourselves. We are the studio, essentially. We have investors that backed it, but we're in total control. The investors, I love them to death because they're like hedge fund finance guys out of
Mm.
out of Nebraska, and they're not filmmakers, so they're not weighing in with notes, and they're just letting us make the movie that we want to make. We're very lucky that way. But because I reinvested my fees, I am now one of the investors of the film. And so as soon as the movie starts making money back, the investors are getting paid back, but so am I. We're pari
Great.
passu. So I'm in that top tier of the waterfall, basically.
That's
If I
good.
didn't reinvest, I would have gotten my small fee, and then I would not have seen any money until, you're right, until they would have made back their
Yeah, yeah,
million plus percentage. So
yeah.
I think actually in the long run, I'm better off this way, providing that the movie actually sells.
Well, that's exactly it. It's like that's what yeah, totally. That's the question, right? Is like in the long run, it's great. How do you get through the long run, right? Because that for us has been this thing of like, and I
But same
know
thing for
it's
you. So you've been editing this movie for a couple of years now, right?
yeah. I mean,
And
we
then you've been also
started.
working on your unscripted series. Is that?
Yeah, so we go out and we are both camera people on weird reality TV shows, and so that's like months at a time. So you go and I mean there were times when I was shooting all day down in like the Everglades in Florida, long days, like 14 hours, whatever. You get home, you get back to your little hotel room, and then you edit your movie,
Yeah,
and it's like, it's tiring. And I know that that's an extreme, right? Of like, oh, going out in the jungle or whatever. But like anyone is going through the same thing. To make a movie on your own with no safety net or anything, you're always going to be doing something like that where it's like, okay, I guess I just got to figure out how do I survive,
yeah.
like it's
I'll say,
tough.
maintain good credit. That helps. No, I mean, I know I'm not the only filmmaker to be, living on credit cards here and there
Hmm.
to just, get by. But it also just goes to show that like it's a rich person's business. Like if
Totally.
all these like younger filmmakers that are just hanging out in coffee shops in LA working on their scripts for, and just networking and going to parties and hustling. You're like, well, I can't because I actually have a job to pay
Hmm.
my bills. And so I don't get those opportunities. And then it just comes down to like, how can I just make this myself? Make those
Sure.
opportunities for myself.
All this stuff it's really, really hard. And then if you see like some type of success, it's like the most gratifying thing you've ever experienced that like brings you to tears that you're trying to hide because you have to do a Q&A in 5 minutes. It's like there's like this super romantic side to it and this like super like difficult side to it. And I don't think it would be as romantic if it wasn't so fucking hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that the filmmaking is interesting in that it's like the cross section of the art of it and then the marketing of it, and like the business side of it. And one side is so romantic and whatever, and the other side is so just soul crushing, you know. Um,
And people
I don't
think it's
know.
easy. Like, I'm just going to go out and make a movie. And no, in fact, having now made a feature, it's kind of a miracle that like good movies exist. Making a feature is hard
Completely.
enough, and
Hmm.
then making a great movie, and even just look at any of the classics, and even like how they had to make those classics, like with the Steinbecks or the Moviolas, and you're like, how do they do that with such rudimentary equipment? And we have all of this amazing gear, and our movies still suck for the most part.
Yeah,
Like a
I
majority of
mean,
movies are bad.
I could go on this forever. Jim Cummings, who's an indie
I love Jim
filmmaker,
Cummings. Yeah.
he has a great quote. He's in Last Stop, and we interviewed him a lot in our movie, and he's helped us out along the way. Thank you, Jim. Um, he has a great quote in our movie that's just any movie that gets made is a miracle, it really is. Just like getting something over the finish line is insane. I think if you look percentage wise at how many good movies are made to how many bad movies are made, I think it's probably quite shocking. But the ones that are great are like, oh man, yeah, how did they get that done? And somebody probably had to just be really stubborn, or some
Yeah.
investors, like you were saying, were really cool and we're just like, yeah, do whatever you want. I don't care. Like, I just want to throw into this because I believe in these people. And I mean, that's James from our movie in a lot of ways. Was he was like, he just believed in Francis so much
Yeah.
that he was willing to, just
But
go
what's
with.
also interesting is like you have or they've made a great movie, and your movie
Mm,
is great, is a great documentary following it up. But like Last Stop is a great movie, and
mm,
it still has not made its money back, right? Or James hasn't made his money back, but the movie up, I guess up until now, it's like grossed around 3 million.
Yeah.
But
something like
that to
that,
me
yeah.
then is like the next question. It's like, but that's a great movie. What happened? Why can't it be? Why
Yeah.
can't it have a higher gross than that?
Well, I guess maybe that's the thing of like, yeah, it's these. That's why production companies don't want to take the swing on these small movies, right? Because they're not gonna make you your year's worth of profit in one go. Like,
It's also why people are starting to self distribute
Yeah.
because then, like, once, like, if your distributor is not going to make you your money back because for whatever reason, and I'm not, and just to be clear, I'm not anti traditional distribution. Um, but it's Last Stop did a traditional distribution deal. We're doing a self distribution deal to be determined if our gamble, us betting on ourselves, is going to work. Um, but it worked for Last Stop in a lot of ways. But like you mentioned, James still doesn't, he still hasn't recouped his investment. Uh, he
Mhm.
still doesn't own a house. So I don't know. It's like,
Well, the
it's a,
film really worked for Francis, and
yeah,
like that's just an amazing success story, and like that's what I dream about. Like, hey, this movie is going to hopefully catapult me into another tier of directors, and I get to make a studio movie as well.
mm,
As a horror filmmaker, I'm like, he gets to make Evil Dead. That's amazing. That's a dream.
yeah,
mhm.
And I
yeah,
know that
yeah.
how passionate he was about that. So it's really really cool to see. Um, and I guess in that regard, like Wellgo USA did come through because did they put was Wellgo? I can't remember the timeline. Were they attached before Fantastic Fest, or did they that
No,
came out of Fantastic Fest?
yeah. Wellgo had always known about the movie from like before production, and they
Yeah,
reached out to them very early on. But the Last Stop guys wanted to like explore all the options first, and then, well, at the very end, Wellgo still was the best deal. And so they went with them.
yeah, okay. And even that deal was something like $250,000
Mhm.
or
which
something
was a
like that.
Which
lot,
was
which is a lot for that year. Like
so
Yeah,
much better than anyone else was offering.
yeah, most of them were like zero or like $50,000, which is might as well be zero.
Yeah, and
yeah,
I mean, even in the last year or two, now seeing 250,000 is like kind of unheard of. Like zero. I have another documentary that as is coming out right now and whatever. And a lot of the distributors that were reaching out to us, no MG.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and
It's a little different for documentaries, but not that different. And like,
to like a zero, I get like a low MG, whatever, but a $0 MG is like, okay, that's a bummer. I
and
hope you
Yeah,
do something great for my movie, but a lot of these distributors don't anyway, right?
I've talked to a lot of filmmakers since we've finished and we've started our festival run, and some people that worked in distribution for a long time, and there's even deals where they expect you to pay for your marketing. So you're putting your own money into marketing and doing it yourself. And they don't give you an MG. They don't give you any money up front, even in advance that you have to pay back. They don't give you any money.
Mhm.
All they do is they're the connection to, they have the email contacts to whoever they're going to attempt to sell it to,
Right, to get it on a streamer or
which
whatever.
it still isn't a guarantee. So
Sure.
it's like, it's, in my opinion, a lot like that kind of thing. It's like, what I keep saying is these guys are making themselves obsolete, because if they keep doing shit like that, what's happening right now is going to continue to happen, which is that filmmakers are going to be like, fuck these guys. I'm going to just go do it myself. Like,
Mhm.
because like, why would I ever take that deal? Like, you have to bring something to the table. You can't just be like, oh, hey, you're tired.
Right.
Give us 30% of your movie, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is it, right? It's like it's your baby that you've just been with for years and years, and you're just gonna like, all right, yeah, whatever. I'm kind of sleepy. Here, take this. Do whatever you want. And what they do with it is nothing. And then the last few years of your life are just well, meaningless. But it's just
Well,
that
no,
hurts.
and they take advantage of you. Have you guys heard of the film Hunting Matthew Nichols?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been
been
talking
talking
a lot about this film
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so those are like some Vancouver filmmakers, right? And they
Yeah.
shot that movie for $250,000. They
Sure.
grossed, I think, $750,000 their opening weekend, and they self-distributed by making a deal with theaters directly.
Yeah.
And they got like 1,000 screens or something like that.
Yeah. They did. I don't know what the hell they did to do that. That's incredibly impressive of them. Like, that's awesome. And I think that like, if there's a model for that in the future that they're establishing for filmmakers right now, because they're doing it, that's incredible, and they deserve everything they have. But also like, there's like other versions of that too, and like, you don't have to be that successful to also make a living doing this. But you have to work really, really hard, and I know they worked really, really hard.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it takes everything, and it's kind of like making a movie is easy by comparison. Getting people to watch the movie is the most difficult thing, right?
Totally.
And look, distribution's easy. You can throw something up on YouTube, and there you go. That's distribution.
Mhm.
But how do you get people to watch it, and how do you monetize it properly? I think that's the equation we just have to figure out.
Well, there's a Foss. What is the name of that documentary on YouTube right now?
Listers.
Those guys made this film. Great documentary. Put it up on YouTube and put their Venmo in the
First they put it up just because they didn't know what to do with it, because they're like these stoner guys, or that's how this is their marketing campaign, right? They're like, we're stoners, we didn't know what to do, we threw it up on YouTube. It got like many millions of views, and then distributors started reaching out to them, which is supposed to not happen. Once you release, distributors are not supposed to like, they're like, oh, it's out in the world.
Especially
like,
once you release it on YouTube, which is
the most accessible platform on the planet.
Completely.
Yeah. So streamers, specifically Netflix and Hulu, reached out to them. They offered them like exclusive distribution deals through them, and they turned them down because they would only gross like after taxes like $40,000 or something. And so they're like, yeah, that's not enough for us to like give away all of our rights to this thing that just took us years to make. So they put it back on YouTube, and then they put their Venmo in the comments, and it's just pay what you want. And I watched it. I give them $20, like, and I'm sure some people gave them $1 and some people gave them $100, like,
yeah,
they've already grossed, like, at the time I read that article, which was weeks ago, and I don't know about anything when it first happened. So it was probably weeks before that it came out. Let's just say 2 months ago that this happened. They had made $70,000, which is almost double what they were offered.
Wow.
by streamers.
Which is
So
all in their own pockets, right? No, there's no waiting on it. It's just
immediately,
like straight to
no
them.
waiting. So
Yeah.
someone figured that out, but their documentary is incredible. It's one of the funniest things I've seen all year.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
got to be good.
Yeah,
Maybe the cream rises to the top. I don't know.
yeah. I think like any of these conversations are based around the idea that the movie is good enough. Like
Yeah.
people are really into
totally.
it. Yeah, for
Right.
sure. But
Yeah.
but that's so interesting. Yeah, it's like can you just find your audience? I think like especially with a movie like yours, obviously filmmakers, I think that's your number one audience. You know, and people like us, but like I liken it to the behind the scenes of Magnolia, which is like one of my favorite, you know.
That moment is what it's called. Yeah,
that moment.
I brought that up multiple times when making this. I was like, growing up, I was a real nerd for BTS.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big documentary guy. I'm actually a horror guy, really. I've just been staring at your Stephen King books behind you the whole time. But growing up, it was all the BTS featurettes. It was the one on Magnolia.
Yeah.
It was the making of Star Wars Episode 1. I would watch like
There's
religiously.
that one, and then in the Star Wars re-release DVD set, there was like I think it's called Empire of Dreams.
Empire of Dreams. It's like 4 hours.
Yeah, it's huge.
Oh,
that's
it's
an
so
epic one
good.
too. But then obviously Heart of Darkness. I think your movie though really is, and like I taught at the Vancouver Film School for a little while part time, like writing and producing courses. That was another way I got by through some of this stuff. Right, it was
Nice.
teaching. And especially with like the industry just tanking right now, I have a few friends in LA that are teaching at USC rather than working in a writer's room. But I digress. I think like film schools, like just any, I don't know, just the more you can educate up and coming filmmakers and like show them this movie and be like, this is the world that you're about to enter into. This is the problem with independent film. Can you find a way around it?
Well, it's really funny that you bring that up because we are actively trying to reach out to film schools right now to try to get this film shown at schools like USC and, you know,
okay.
The Vancouver.
Maybe this is your way to come back to Vancouver.
That would be, trust me, I'm not leaving if we do.
Okay, after we wrap up here, I'm going to make a couple phone calls because I do have
be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
No, 100%. But I think like, have you looked into like Kinema?
Yeah,
we've looked into Kinema, Gather, a lot of different tools, and
I don't know too much about that side of things, but
we've had a couple meetings with Gather. The people that work for them are pretty great. But I've heard good things about Kinema as well. They basically do the same thing. But yeah, so Gather, just for your audience, they do like, they try to be a one-stop shop for filmmakers who are self-distributing. So they offer 4 different avenues or like ways that you can distribute your film. There's theatrical, which is, you know, we all know what that is. You know, going to theaters, like you can go to AMC and then put the ticket sales through Gather. There's digital theatrical, which is like a you know, scheduled event that everybody tunes in and watches at the same time, and it's only available for that time.
Right.
They do their own version of video on demand, which is just like same as like going on Amazon and paying $5 to see a movie. And then what's the 4th one? Do you remember, Brandon?
No, I was worried that you weren't going to remember all of them, and I was going to have to pick up some slack. I don't remember. The point being, they you know, they give you some good avenues to explore with, like, you know, being able to get your movie out there and in front of people and then, you know, virtually.
Also to help you build an audience through like collecting emails and things like that, and like trying to build like like a list that you can send, like thanking people for coming and like, here, buy a shirt or whatever, like just giving you the tools to like
Yeah.
take those next steps, not just like, oh, people will watch my movie or people aren't watching my movie. It's like there's five other steps that come after if you're going to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that's a potential path, but yeah, the other thing that I keep seeing too, are like just YouTube creators breaking into the Hollywood system,
Oh
which like
yeah.
Markiplier, I mean, he's a little bit
Mm.
different, but like Markiplier, I guess, like already had a huge following on YouTube, and then released his film. What he spent $3 million making, but like grossed 50 million
Hmm.
theatrically. So let's just say theater owners would have taken 50% if he distributed it himself, or I don't know exactly know what the deal was, but there's potentially $25 million on the table.
Yeah.
Even a little less than that, but that's a lot of money. It's a nice thought of like, oh yeah, just like use your following to do that. But these guys have been building their YouTube audiences for so long.
Right.
You
Sure.
can't just build a
Yeah,
YouTube
it's
audience that
it's tough
quickly.
to go. I mean, so many. It's going on all over the place right now. You know who Curry Baker is? You heard
Yeah,
about
Curry
him?
Barker, he just
Or
shot
Curry Barker?
his
Sorry.
second film here in Vancouver.
Oh, was that where it was at? Obsession or the one after Obsession?
After Obsession.
Got it.
So I think that one's called Anything But Ghosts. And yeah, but like I'm stoked to see Obsession, but like talk about just a dream come true. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a $14 million distribution deal coming out of TIFF for that.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's insane. And
Wow.
and now he's getting, I think, Texas Chainsaw.
That's
He
right.
just got. That's fucking
Oh, that's
insane.
that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
You'll,
he's
you'll
in.
learn, Ken, that I don't know anything about movies. It's really embarrassing.
But there's another one, Kane Parsons, who
Yep.
created the
Yep.
Backrooms on YouTube,
Yep.
and that's like 200 million views.
Yep.
And then he's
And
now
he's
the
like
youngest.
18.
Yeah, I think he was 19 or 20
Fucking.
when they shot that movie here in Vancouver as well. My director of photography on my film Remnant was the cam op on Backrooms.
No way.
Yeah, and
That is so
he said
rad.
it was awesome. It was a really great experience. But
Okay.
yeah, Kane's like 20 years old directing this, $20 million, I think like $15 to $20 million A24 film.
Ridiculous.
And again, another YouTuber. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, so why didn't we just create YouTube channels like 15 years
Yeah,
ago?
when we were. Yeah, I mean,
But also, like, what's stopping us now?
Yeah, right.
We're not dead. Like, we're not going to die in 20 years. Like,
No.
hopefully.
and honestly, the argument then becomes, right, if our goal is to get eyeballs on our movie, right, and to go, okay, well, maybe this one won't make money, but the next one will, and you just want people to see it. What is stopping you from just putting it out on YouTube? Like, obviously, there's a long list of like, well, you want something bigger for your movie or whatever, but
I think
I
the
don't know.
response to that, or my response to that, would be that figure out for step one is breaking through the noise floor, because anybody can distribute now. But because of that, there's just this like buzz of like noise happening, and you can't hear anything if you don't get through that. Like, no one's gonna hear about you unless you
Yeah.
can figure out a way to get through that. And that's all that is audience building. And that, as you mentioned, takes time. It's something that we're starting right now with some minor success on Instagram.
That's honestly how I came across you guys. Like I heard about your movie because of the Santa Barbara Film Festival. But last week I was on Instagram scrolling and one of your reels popped up and I was like, oh yeah, this movie. I love Last Stop. And I was like, I want to talk to these guys. And I emailed you 15 minutes later. And then 15 minutes later, you emailed me back. And now here we are talking less than a week later. So yeah, Instagram worked for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a real, like, I've always been really resistant to social media. I've always had social media, but I've always been like not super active on it. And I've always been like very scared to like put myself out there, especially my voice, and I still haven't really put my face on social media on that account. But what we're learning is that that's what you have to do to like for anyone to give a shit. And ever since I started doing that, I've only made like 4 or 5 where like I've like put myself out there, and almost every one of those is like for us very successful,
Mhm.
which is like 2,000 likes and
But I think the
whatever.
big thing about doing that is the conversations that it started, not just with you, Ken, but
Oh,
like just
1,000%.
so many people are like commenting different things. And some of them are like, this is so cool. Some of them have like distribution horror stories of their own. And some people are like,
Totally.
why the fuck would you sell your house, you idiot? And it's
Yeah.
like all of these things I think are valid in their own way. And just as
Yeah.
far as like starting this or having this conversation, because we haven't started this conversation, it's been had for how
And
many
we're
years.
still like really stupid. Like I don't know shit. I'm just
That's the
like
big thing. We're
trying to
learning. Totally.
know. And honestly, like I'm putting out these videos and I'm hoping that somebody will be like, you're wrong about everything and
Mm-hmm.
here's why. And I'll be
Right.
like, oh, well now we know stuff. Then like
Right.
now everybody else knows stuff too, right?
Yeah.
But the one time I thought that was going to happen, I had a meeting with this like dude that was posing as a distributor, and he was very convincing in his comment. And I
Mm-hmm.
met with him. I was like, in 5 minutes, I was like, "Oh, you're a bullshit artist." So
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Back to my like my own confusion, but
Yeah, I mean, and that's I think the big thing for me and Foss is through this whole journey has been just like we really have learned in the last 3 years. I learned everything that I know about distribution. Like I thought I knew what was going on, and now I'm like, I still don't know what's going on, like I have a few more tools to work with and a few more like points of reference, but like shit,
Yeah.
this is crazy, and so like having these conversations and for us to be able to learn and figure stuff out along the way, I think it's like super valuable.
Yeah, it's true. And same thing for me. I mean, this is my first time through on, on this scale, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. I mean, really the only time, but like there are just so many things behind the curtain, and being able to just like pull that back and talk about it. And I
Completely.
love the part in your movie where you're just like, we're going to make this cartoon about how distribution works, and just be
Sure.
totally honest about like how the contract works. Like, we own 35% of the movie, like fuck you bitch, or whatever it is. And like it's just so true, and too many filmmakers have felt that and have suffered by it. So like whatever we can do to just keep the conversation alive and be like, no, there has to be a better way to do it. There's a great article that just came out a couple days ago by a producer named Darren Smith, who is based in Utah. And it's on IndieWire, and he's been doing a series of articles there. But he has Craftsman Films in Utah,
yeah,
and
I've been reading that guy's website.
yeah, Darren's great. He's been on the podcast. He actually sponsored us like last season, and he's just an all around great guy, and
Cool.
really knowledgeable. And just the way that he looks at producing from a like supply and demand
Yeah,
side of things. And like when you just look at that, you're like, oh, that totally makes sense. Like I have tons of supply, but I need to create demand for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so like how do we create demand? It's like it is about building the audience and getting yourself out there. But even social media is kind of like building a house on rented land, So it's like the Substack, or just having a newsletter. YouTube in a way is another great way. I mean, that's still social media, but it's just like finding ways to connect directly with your audience. You guys have a website. That's something that you then control, and you
yeah.
can reach out to people that way. But it's hard. I'm also like, to your point, Eric, like why not just build a YouTube channel now? Like there's nothing stopping us from doing it now. And I'm in the
Sure.
process too of like, hey, I just made my first film. Here's what it took to make that happen. And starting to create some YouTube videos around that, because I don't know where things are going to go. Nobody does. I don't know. It's a weird time. It's inspiring, but also it's just so damn tough.
I will say though, like, and it might just be because we're in it right now, but it's never felt like it feels like different now than it's ever felt. And I don't know if that's true or not, but because it feels like kind of like no one knows what's going on, and that's scary and everybody's scared, that's the time that is the most exciting. When everybody's scared, then that's when like the little guy gets to get in. Like there's like an opening there because like people don't know, and you're like, fuck you, I'm walking through the door now. And like I don't know,
Yeah.
there's something there. And like I don't know how to like fully articulate that, but like it's just a pattern you see over and over of like when everybody's scared, Kevin Smith shows up. When everybody's scared, you know, uh whoever, you know, like
Well, it happened in the late 60s, right? When Hollywood studios went bankrupt and then Easy Riders came out. And like that was the birth of like the indie
Yeah.
scene. And
Yep,
like
yep,
all
yep.
of the best directors, the most successful, like our American directors.
Mhm.
And then it happened again in the early 90s with like Tarantino and
Kevin
Wes
Smith
Anderson,
and all these
Paul
guys.
Thomas Anderson, and all of those guys, and Kevin Smith.
yeah,
And now I feel like we're at that stage again where,
totally.
look, Paramount, Warner Brothers, who knows what's going to happen there? There's major consolidation. No one can find work. You know, as a TV writer, I had like 3 shows in development with various producers, and like one of the producers is huge, one of the most prolific showrunners in TV, and it's still such a slow process. It's so slow that like Chris and I polished up the script, raised money, shot the movie, and are now locking picture this week, and we still haven't pitched those shows. It's been a year and a half like of just like free development work. And so that the Hollywood system sucks. It has to change. And I think for like directors and writers that are out there working in the system and only in the system, I think your days are numbered. Like I think you, to your point, Eric, like now is the time where these systems are crumbling. And this is where it's a bit of the Wild West. And like us independent filmmakers can find those doors and like get our foot in the door and just be like, okay, we're walking through now because we've created this thing.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that I think like at the very end, like you guys should be totally proud of is like you've made a movie. A lot of people don't even get to make a movie. They don't even get that far. So now you have the thing and yeah, let's see what happens. It's pretty exciting.
It's even more exciting to me because like there's a system out there that like tries to make you believe that you need them. But we're the people making the thing. Like they're selling our product. And so they need us way more than we need them, especially today. So like that's the power you have walking into a room when they're trying to give you a shitty deal. And like that's why we're starting to build our audience. Because then what happens is that's why we're self-distributing. If a distributor shows up and they're like, oh, we want to give you this good deal, we would be like, great, that's a great deal. Let's do that. Let's do that. But they're not. And distributors don't give you good deals. So, or at least the indie ones. And so you have to, then the answer is build my own audience, self-distribute. And then if a distributor then comes knocking on my door, like they did for like listers, for example, then you can be like, I don't need you if you're going to give me a bad deal. Like, why are you wasting our time? Like, give me a good deal because you need me, or I don't know, go away. And that's what I mean. Like what I was saying, like they're making themselves obsolete. Like we're just building our own audiences now, and they should be terrified, or they should change their model. I don't know.
Yeah, like you know, I have agents. I have Canadian lit agents, and I've gone through a number of American agents in LA, and I've been at a whole bunch of boutique agencies and management companies in LA, and I ended up firing my LA agent last summer because like I wrote a TV pilot in the winter of 2024, and they did nothing with it. Like absolutely no, now's not a good time to go out. It's never a good time to go out. There's always somebody's either always going to Sundance.
There's some festival going on. All year, exactly.
Oh no, August isn't good because people are on vacation. So you have this like window between Labor Day and Halloween where it's like I think we can sell something then. And
but everyone else is also pitching at that point too. So I guess it's not a good time to do it now either.
So then if you're not A-list, you can't get a meeting and it just doesn't work out. So anyway, I let go of my agent last summer, but even leading up to the making of my movie, like my agents did not believe that I was going to pull this off. And they actually tried to drop me a few months before because I was like, no, I'm a director. I need to focus on directing. I'd made short films. I won this emerging Greenlight Award from the Directors Guild of Canada to make my calling card short film. And even then they were like, we can't do anything with you. This isn't working out. And I was like, well, if I just stay as a TV writer, an unemployed TV writer, you'll still represent me with my TV stuff? They're like, yeah, sure. So I was like, okay, for anything I do on the feature side, you guys aren't making a penny. And they're like, all right, because they thought I would fail. And
Right.
so just over a year and a half ago, they basically were like, this is impossible. But here we are. We've made a movie. We raised over $1 million and we got the thing done. And so now to your point, like Eric, now I have so much ammo of like, I'm now on a different list. And when I told my Canadian agents that this all happened, we shot the movie, it stars Kim Coates from Sons of Anarchy. And they're just like, oh, like you kind of did the thing that most people can't do or don't do. And I was like, yeah. So you kind of just got to like believe in me. But now I'm
Yeah,
like, why do I need agents?
yeah, exactly.
I did the whole thing without them.
You're supposed to believe in me. That's why I fucking hired you to begin with. And they were supposed to help me like get to the next step. And
And then you just
do that
did it.
myself.
You
And
just
now
did it
I
on your
proved
own.
that. So
Right.
you just now I just proved that I don't need you. So I guess
So the way that
I guess
to me,
now that's the making yourself obsolete thing.
well, yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know what Francis's case was, but I'm assuming that UTA. I don't know if he was with UTA before that, or he signed with them because of the movie. But like, if an agent can get me a massive paycheck from a big studio movie franchise that I would love to direct, and like then I'm kind of set up for a little while and have a nice nest egg. Okay, cool. Like you've earned your 10%. But if I sign with an agent and they're just like, okay, so keep making these like $1.5 million films, and we'll just kind of see what happens. I'm like, why would I sign with you and give away 10%? Because
Yeah.
it's 10% to you, 10% to my Canadian agent, maybe 5% to a lawyer who's all of a sudden excited about your potential success. And so, yeah, as soon as you're successful, all of these people just like try to
come out of the woodwork. James there's a thing in our movie where James sort of talks about it. He's like, where were all of you when like we were struggling to get this thing made and nobody gave a shit, right?
Yeah.
And now
Yeah,
all of a sudden dollar signs are floating in the air and
He
everybody
didn't
comes out
want
of
to
the
sell
woodwork.
his house.
Right.
There was just no
Like,
other way to make the movie.
It was the thing he had to do. And I mean, there's another big thing in our documentary that we've been figuring out and put words to. It's just like there are middlemen everywhere, gatekeepers that are they're just trying to take a slice of the pie as you go through. And really, you are the one that is having to do all of the work, and then they can take credit for it afterwards, right? And your money. And to cut as much of that out as possible. And like you're saying that you went and did this whole thing yourself and then were able to go back to your agents and go like, oops, I just did everything you told me that I wasn't going to be able to do. Like, well, fuck, who gives a shit about them then?
Yeah, and I've always been the guy where like agents are like, "Oh, we don't have a relationship with them." I'm like, "It's your job to build a relationship."
Yeah,
like, give me the
so
email.
how do you have?
I'll reach out right now.
Completely, because that's all. Any distributor or agent or whatever, that is their job, is to have emails. So it's like, so if I can just Google and find the fucking email, then I just did your job.
Well, even in raising money for my film, because I reached out to everybody from friends, family, my dentist to hedge funds.
You did the dentist move. That's the classic.
And even my dentist
Sam
was like,
Raimi
that sounds
dentist.
interesting.
Great.
Yeah. But he's like, you have a cavity. But so I reached out. I ended up getting a 7-day trial to, I think it's Variety Insight or whatever, which is like gives you all the emails for studio executives. And so I just got the 7-day free trial, downloaded every single email from every production company that could possibly be a fit, and distributor and sales agent. And so I just had this database and I just started picking them off the list. I have an Excel spreadsheet of hundreds of names and contact, emails. And I just went through, and 2%, that's usually the success rate. Actually, it's true. About 2% got back to me, and some of them led to just relationship building, and most of them led nowhere. But it was just a really great exercise, and like that's always who I've been. But that's why this whole idea of having an agent doesn't make sense to me.
What's that list thing again?
Variety Insight.
Variety Insight.
I think it's Variety Insight, or now it's called Illuminate, actually. But it's like if you type in Variety Illuminate, you can get a 7-day free trial, and you get access to every studio executive that's signed up with Variety, which is everybody.
Right.
And yeah, and
If you
every
listen
distributor and
closely,
sales
you can
agent there.
hear Foss furiously typing right now.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Now I do.
There you go.
Yeah, what other tricks did I? Yeah, that was a big one. And then
Dude, that's great.
what I also found out from a lot of these, like even on Variety, where they'll say that they finance films, 9 times out of 10, the response was like, "That sounds awesome. We'd love to be a part of this. So we will only lend you financing that is like collateralized against a tax credit or other, money that's coming later." I'm like, so you're not really taking a risk. You're just giving me a loan. You're not actually putting in private equity.
That's all most of these things are anyway, though. They're all loans at the end of the day because these companies are companies and their job is to make money and not make movies.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day, right? So,
so they're not, to me, they're not like true financiers. I'm like, I can find money to loan against my tax credit. That's not the issue. I just need to raise enough private equity to make the tax credit higher, right? And so I found investors that took a risk, and look, it's my duty to make them their money back and also build my career this way. But it's been tough. But also, like, as soon as we had Kim Coates, for example, attached to the movie, a whole bunch of other doors opened. It was like, oh, now you're real. Now you have a real actor on board.
It's the marketing aspect of having an actor and a face. Like, you can throw him up there, Like,
yeah, but actually, even our sales agent was like, they're actually letting us lead the charge with the creative. Actually, here's an interesting thing that, because Welgo made the poster and like cut a trailer, correct? I think for Last Stop.
Last Stop. Yep.
Well, they hired companies to do that for them.
And that is
a middleman.
Welgo is a middleman, and then they reach out to these poster companies, and then
exactly. So I got the trailer last night, actually, that our sales agent hired somebody up to cut together, but it's actually really good.
Okay.
I'm so stoked about it, and it cost like hardly anything. Like,
That's
very,
great.
very, very low
surprising.
fee. And then they let us do the poster. We have a poster guy that we commissioned out of Spain that we used on our last short film. And again, super cheap comparatively. And they loved our poster. So that's the poster that they're using for sales.
Good.
I think that's like kind of where the model could go, right? Like where it becomes some version of self-distribution that they're investing their time into, but you're controlling the money for like your or the, I don't know. This is a new thought for me, but there must be some in between version. I don't know. How's Antenna working for you, Brandon?
Antenna's been great. So I have this other film that's coming out right now called Stolen Kingdom, which is a documentary about like a black market of like thieves at Disney and whatever. But so we signed with this a very new distribution company whose goal sort of on paper is like they're giving us way too good of splits for themselves. They actually, it seems like a distributor that actually gives a shit and wants the artist to be able to put out what they want to put out. And so far, our relationship with them has been great. And I think that that's super few and far between. And we'll see how that goes. Like I say, they're a new company, so I hope they can keep,
but just a much more collaborative process. I mean, that's totally so important. Yeah, and it's kind of like, you think the people that made the thing would know
what their thing is and how to like artistically express this thing that they're making, and then you give it to a distributor and they're like, we'll take it from here, and they don't know shit about shit, and then they come out with a floating head poster. Nothing against floating head posters, but maybe everything is floating head posters.
I mean, that callback in your film though, about like as they were on set or leading up to it or whatever, and he was like looking at the website, like, oh yeah, they're probably going to make a floating head poster, and I'll throw up in my mouth.
Sure enough, every fucking time, man, like without fail.
I just put out a post yesterday on Instagram about posters, and I called Brandon because I was having trouble with it, and he's like, "Didn't Francis say something in the car about?"
About like just how fucking
Basically, he was like, the quote is, he's like, "My worst fear from day one is that whoever distributes this thing is just going to put a bunch of people holding guns on the poster, a big explosion." And this is like a year before they signed with Wogo. It's like your biggest fear came to life, like, and that's why James. Well, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for James, but. Yeah, I mean, like you release control of your marketing with the second you sign with the distributor. So now your voice is no longer your own. It's whatever they think will sell, which is also the thing that is safe that will sell. It's not they're just going to file down the edge of whatever you just made and make it as palatable for people as possible.
It's Zen is for everyone, right? Marketing it's the part of this whole process that is like, it gives me a headache. And, I think it's why people go with distributors, because they also are like, I don't want to fucking deal with all that shit. But then you see it and you're like, well, why did I do this anyway? Because now I have a bunch of terrible posters and trailers that give away the whole movie and blah, blah, blah,
Oh, yeah. Talk about trailers that give away everything, too. Well, okay, look, so I feel like we could talk about this for another 5 hours. What I would love to do is like put a pin in it here and then follow up with you guys, in a few months and see where you're at with the movie and like how things are going. Because I think it's just so interesting what you're doing, self-distributing this versus traditional distributor. And maybe you end up with a traditional distributor if the deal is good,
Yeah. I mean, if you prove yourself, then like, it's like, do you want a piece of the pie or not? And we've proven that we're going to be successful. So like you can have a piece of the pie, but not that big of a piece.
Yeah.
Because we've already done the work.
Right.
Yeah. Well, on that note, guys, Eric, Brandon, this has been a total pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been super fun.
Yeah, thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. Really appreciate it, man. And good luck to you and it sounds like everything that's going on with your film right now is super exciting. So I'm excited to catch up with you in a couple months and beg you for a little bit of clout when your film has far exceeded ours.
No. Look, we're going to stay in touch and we're all in this together. And I think that's really the other thing about this indie film community and like meeting you guys and just meeting other filmmakers. Like we're all just trying to figure this all out at the same time. And so the least we can do is like lift each other up and help each other out.
Completely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's it for this week's episode of Off the Lot. We want to hear from you. If there are any topics you want covered or any questions you'd like answered, please email us at podcast.offthelot@gmail.com.
You can also find us on Instagram and YouTube. Our handles are in the show notes. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And share this with your friends. See you next week.